So you're driving along, minding your own business, and all of a sudden, just like that, you're dealing with a lunatic road rager. And what you do next is absolutely going to determine whether or not you go home safe to your family. And this is exactly what happened February 2025 on a gorgeous day, just like today in Lynchburg, Virginia. A young lady by the name of Ashton suddenly encountered a lunatic. Anyway, I had the chance to chat with Ashton. Check out this little chat that she and I had, and then we'll talk about what went right and things to keep in mind in case you ever find yourself dealing with a road rager. Check it out. Hi, Ashton. How you doing?
Hi, John. I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing phenomenal. Thank you for taking a time and a moment to come over and chat with me about this little drama that you had in your life.
Absolutely. Thanks for making time as well.
Oh my gosh. So there you were. It looked like a beautiful spring day in Virginia and you're just driving along and then bam, hello.
Yeah, absolutely. It was Monday afternoon, sun shining, and then it just, got a little crazy.
So yeah, so walk us through it. My gosh, from some of the pictures I saw, this lady actually was climbing on the hood of your car, but
Yeah.
back up 30 seconds. There
Yeah.
you are driving.
hmm
Walk us through it real quick.
Yeah, absolutely. So me and my coworker and friend had just left work, and we were both, headed the same direction. We were both going to pick up our kids. After work, I was headed down the road and I was about to pass a apartment complex to my left.
Hmm.
And I saw a car that was getting ready to turn out. I thought they were going to wait until after me, and she didn't. So she pulled out in front of me and I honked my horn because I was a little too close for comfort. I thankfully braked enough in time to avoid hitting her. But when I honked my horn at her, she stopped her car in the middle of the road and just got out.
Wow. So right then and there, she didn't even drive a half mile or
Nope.
anything. She just stopped right there.
Right there in the middle of the
Wow.
road. Right there in the middle of the road. She got out and she was visibly upset already. As soon as she got out of the car, she was already yelling, are we gonna do this? I have time for this today. We can play these games. Some lines
Yeah.
along there, random stuff like that. And she approached my window, which at the time was halfway down, and she just kept yelling. She at one point hit my window, and then my friend, who was still 2 cars behind me from leaving work, she actually pulled up next to us because she thought I had rear-ended her.
Yeah.
And the lady in the car got in front of my friend's car as well, hit her hood a few times, and then came back over, hit my driver's side window a few more times, was still yelling. At that point, I just kind of rolled my windows up. I knew I couldn't, reason with her or anything, made sure my doors were locked. And yeah, it just kind of escalated from there.
During that little exchange, I'm assuming you had an adrenaline dump because all of a sudden this has become very confrontational. Was there
Yeah, absolutely.
anything going through your mind at that time, like things you could possibly do to get away from it or make her shut up? I mean, was there anything that you remember going through your head, or was it a blank?
At that point, I think I was more just like shell shocked that she was still yelling and actually
Yeah.
hitting my car physically. When she first got out of the car, I thought it was going to be one of those things where she came up, yelled for a few seconds, and then got back in her car, and we all went about our day, and that was it.
Right. Right.
And so up until she started being physical and hitting my car, I just assumed it was going to be one of those quick 10-second interactions, and everyone just goes about their day. When she actually started hitting it, that's when my adrenaline started pumping, and I realized that this was something that might get a little out of control, and it had already escalated a little bit. I realized I should probably call the cops when she eventually ended up on the hood of my car and ripped my windshield wiper off. And that's when I eventually called 911 and was like, okay, yeah, this isn't gonna be a like we both drive away kind of incident.
No, no. Was there any part of you that wanted to say anything to her, yell at her, call her names, or did you just already know that probably wouldn't be good? There was no point in doing that. Just wondering if
Yeah.
you felt like you wanted to call her a bitch also. I just, was there, did you?
This thought definitely came into my mind. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean, I didn't obviously because I knew it wasn't going to help anything. It wasn't going to resolve anything. She was already
Right.
visibly very upset. You could pretty much tell uh, there was no reasoning with her.
Right.
She was yelling at cars passing by. She was giving everybody the middle finger,
Wow.
yelling at people that were stopped. It wasn't just directed towards me at this point either. She was just yelling at everybody who would listen, honestly. And so I knew that me yelling back would just add more
Yeah.
chaos to the already chaotic situation.
Yeah, I saw that. It looks like you did shoot some video from inside your car. At what point did you do that? What?
So that was right before I called 911. She was on the hood of my car, and I didn't know if anyone at the time else was recording. And I
Yeah.
just kind of wanted to have proof that she was on my car in case something happened,
Yeah. Yeah.
which it did. And obviously
Yeah.
there was a lot of other video footage from different angles, so I wasn't the only one recording, obviously. But at the time, I just wanted to make sure I had some kind of proof that this did escalate. She was acting irrationally. She did climb on my car and cause, physical damage to my car. But when she ripped my windshield wiper off, I turned the video off, and that's when I was like, okay, let me call 911. And, someone else is going to have to resolve this because there's not going to be any, like I said, reasoning with her at that point.
Was she still on your car when the police arrived?
So she actually wasn't. There was a gentleman who, like I said, there's multiple people pulled over during
Yeah.
the course of all of this. Some people slowed down to make sure I was okay. They kind of just gave me a thumbs up as they slowed down, passing my car, and I'd show that I was on the phone with 911. All good. They're on their way. We'll get it taken care of. But some people actually pulled into a parking lot next to where we were, including my friend Amanda, who had just left work with me, and she got
Yeah.
the most of the video footage. But
Oh.
by the time the cops got there, there was also a gentleman that pulled over in the parking lot, and I could tell he was on the phone with 911. He was outside of his car, just kind of watching everything. I could tell he was keeping them up to date about what was going on. And eventually, I guess when she was on the hood of my car, he actually went into her car and took her car keys so she couldn't drive
Oh.
away from the scene.
Nice.
And so she actually eventually got off of my car, went into her car to leave. I didn't realize this at the time that he had her keys. So
Yeah.
I was a little confused as to why she got back out of her car once she got in. I
Like, here
thought
we
that was
go
kind of the
again.
end of it.
Right.
But she actually got back out of her car and she approached some of the cars that were in the parking lot. And she eventually approached him and
Wow.
he kind of just took her into a bear hug and laid her on the ground. And about 10 to 15 to 30 seconds later, the cops were there. So it was a very short time frame between when he took her down to when the cops actually arrived and detained
Yeah.
her themselves. But she was not currently on my car when they got there. She was, I guess, citizens arrested, you could say.
Yeah. Detained. Wow. Did it seem you really have no idea? Well, I guess you do remember you called 911. So from the time you remember calling 911 and the police arriving, did it seem like an eternity?
It did while it was
Yeah.
happening. Looking
Yeah.
back, I think my 911 call itself lasted at like 10 to 12 minutes.
Oh, wow.
Um,
Okay.
and so it took them about 10 minutes to arrive on scene after they started getting calls. But I was on the phone with 911 the entire time until they showed up on scene,
Okay. Very
just
good.
reiterating what was happening. At this point, she broke my windshield at the top of it when she was actually on the roof of my car, which she was
Oh,
for a little bit.
wow.
At what point she ripped my windshield wiper. I was just relaying all of this to the 911 operator so they could have some kind of record of what was happening and in what time frame.
Did
And
that
while
help
we were
you?
on the phone, she actually told me she was getting multiple calls
Oh,
about it,
wow.
and they were
Okay.
already on
Yeah.
the way. So
Do you remember if talking to dispatch helped you stay calm? Just that you were in touch with
yes, it
someone?
did,
Yeah.
for sure, just because I knew, they were on their way. Someone else was, coming to de-escalate the situation a lot better than I could.
Yeah.
And that helped for sure. But I think also having so many other people stopping to make sure I was okay, my friend Amanda being there,
Okay.
all of those came into play as well. I knew if it did escalate to anything physical between her and I, if she were to get in the car, that
Yeah.
at least there were other people there to assist me or help me, or at least, be there to witness a situation.
So you never really felt any imminent danger of great bodily harm or death or anything like that.
No.
With the exception of the adrenaline dump of this lady acting the fool, you never really felt in fear for yourself, did you?
I did not. I already
Okay.
always had that barrier of the windshield. My car doors were locked, my windows were rolled up. Actually, looking back at one of the videos, I think my back window was down about that much, and I didn't
Okay.
realize it. But she obviously did not either. But I had my doors
Right.
locked. The windshield was, in the end, busted a little bit, but she never busted all the way through to where she could actually reach me or anything. And so,
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
my life, I didn't feel that imminent danger at the time. Had she have
Could you
breached
have?
that, I probably would have,
Sure.
but it was just never breached.
And your child was not in the vehicle with you at the time.
No, he was not. I
Yeah.
was on my way to pick him up, but I hadn't
Okay.
gotten there yet, thankfully.
That probably would have changed how you feel, maybe more of a sense of adrenaline, but if you already could
Absolutely.
rationalize that she was not able to get into the vehicle, you probably would not have felt that much more concern for your
No,
child because you felt safe in the vehicle.
absolutely. I do think I would have made more of an effort in the beginning to just drive away.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
I definitely, if he was in the car with me, still would have never gotten out.
sure.
Especially if he was in the car with me, just because that would have given her access into the car with him in it. So I don't think I would have reacted differently in that aspect, but I do think I may have, tried to go around her once she did stop and get out of the car.
Yeah,
Because there were a few seconds where I did have that opportunity, and it just being me in the car, I wasn't, like you said, worried about that imminent fear of danger, so I didn't fear for my life. I didn't have that flight or fight
right.
reaction at that
Okay,
point.
okay,
Uh, if my kid was with me, I feel like I probably would
right.
have.
Yeah, yeah. Could you have backed out of the way? Would that have been one of the options? Because this was in the middle of the day, so there's a lot of traffic. Had traffic
Ye-
backed up behind you, would you have been able to back out?
Yeah, traffic was backed up pretty far behind us. Um, I I don't know at first if I would have been able to back up because I wasn't really looking in my rearview mirror at that point.
Yeah, yeah,
Eventually I thought about backing up and going around her, but at that point I couldn't. There were people, eventually traffic did start going around us. And so at that point I just didn't have anywhere to go. It was a curb or it was
yeah.
into the other line of traffic going
Other
around
lane.
us. Yeah.
You made a comment a while ago that I want to touch upon again, especially as a former police officer. You made the comment that you were that dispatch told you that she was getting multiple calls on it,
Mhm.
and I always tell all my de-escalation classes and all that, don't assume someone else is calling the police. If you feel that the police need to be called, call them, because
Mhm.
I can tell you from experience, like in the middle of the night, because I used to work nights, dispatch would say, "Hey, we got a phone call, big brawl, neighborhood brawl, 30 people, guns, knives, and explosives." And I'll call back and say, "Hey, how many calls are you getting on it?" Only one. Well, okay, it's bogus. But when dispatch gets on the radio and says, "Hey, we're getting multiple calls of a big fight or something," it just adds urgency to our response. And so I'm really glad, and it gives me an opportunity to share for people watching this later. Hey, if you think the police need to be called, don't assume someone else is doing it. Do it yourself also. The more calls that dispatch gets, the more serious they realize the situation is, and the responding officers will, take that into account, and basically step it up. So,
Yeah,
um,
absolutely. And I think that helped a lot as well
oh
that
yeah,
day.
absolutely. What a crazy world we live in. I mean, my gosh, just of all the things,
Yeah.
what have you always been so uh stress free, so relaxed? I mean, what
Those
life
are never
experience?
words I thought anyone would use to describe
Right.
me. Oh gosh, no. I
How,
think I handle those types of situations a little bit better than the average person just because I do have experience working with the public in healthcare and especially in restaurant world and
okay.
restaurants and bartending. I had a
Yeah.
lot of 2, 3 o'clock. 3 o'clock a.m., night where, we're
Yeah,
closing down the bars. It's the last stop for a lot of people. They're already intoxicated when they come in.
yeah,
I've dealt with my fair share of parking lot brawls, like you were
yeah,
saying, or
yeah,
bar fights on the inside. All of that, I think takes a toll on the stress amount that I felt at that time for sure.
yeah,
I've definitely seen worse fights. I've seen people get a lot more angry than she did, cause a lot more damage than she did, and
yeah.
so I think that definitely had something to do with it for sure. But stress
That
free, maybe not.
no, maybe not. But you handle the stress phenomenally, and that actually goes back to my point that I make in all my training seminars is, and which is why I do use such dynamic, realistic scenarios in my training, is because I'm trying to get people stress inoculated, get them conditioned to be able to operate in a stressful environment and still be able to think things through and not inadvertently say or do something that could make the situation worse. Just like you had enough stress inoculation and conditioning to recognize this lady is just out of her freaking mind. There is no point in saying anything to her in this moment because she's not in the right frame of mind to rationalize
Yes.
what you're saying. And so you
Yeah.
just know not to, just let it burn itself out. Hopefully
Yeah.
no one gets
Absolutely.
hurt, right? And even though she broke a couple things, or even if she had done
Hmm.
more damage to the car, we got insurance for that. We don't
Yes.
need to risk our life or limb um, to
For
get all
property.
crazy, right?
Yeah.
Because I have seen so many unfortunate incidences where people get all bent out of shape over someone damaging a window or a car, and they get out. They make the situation worse, and then they themselves get hurt or killed because the other person has got a weapon or whatever.
Yeah.
And so thankfully you did not feel the need to get out because you're offended that your BMW, I don't know what you're driving, but I'm just saying, you
Not a
didn't
BMW.
you didn't get offended that this lady's
But no,
busting
but,
up
but
your
but something that I paid
yeah.
for was being damaged. Yeah,
See,
absolutely.
exactly,
Absolutely.
and there are people who consider their little 1987 Chevette their baby. So,
Yes.
yeah. So
There
no,
are
good for
people who
you.
would defend that tooth and nail for sure. My thought process is similar to yours. I have insurance. It's there for a reason. I can
Right.
replace my windshield, no problem. I can't replace, her life, my life, or anyone else's around us if it were to get to that point.
That's a real tricky situation. I'm glad you recognize that because if you had started to drive away and she fell off and got hurt, you're the bad guy. If you
Yeah,
had
and I
gotten
couldn't.
out, right?
Yeah.
And in this day and age, they will be quick to make you look out to be the bad guy, regardless of
Hmm.
how this person ended up, acting the fool
Yeah.
and all that. It's crazy.
Yeah, and I
And
just
any,
don't think if she were to get hurt, I just don't think I would be able to sleep at night regardless
right,
of
right.
the
Yep.
legality of it. I wouldn't be able to process that myself.
No, and thankfully again, everyone went home safe. Nothing
Yes,
got
that
severely
was the
broken
goal.
that's not replaceable. Right, absolutely. So that's a win. Any update on her? Do we know why she ended up doing that? She was coming out of an apartment. Is she going through a
Mhm.
divorce? Was she drunk? Do we know anything? What's the latest with
I
her?
I don't I
Yeah.
don't know too much about her in general. I do know she is well, she did not get bond, so she is still in police custody until her court case. And I did just get
Oh.
served the subpoena for that court case in May. So we will have for court for that. I think she's facing a few different charges related to that incident. I do know that when she pulled out of her apartment complex, she was already driving kind of not necessarily recklessly, but like just you can kind of tell when someone's driving angrily. You
Yeah.
can tell when
Very.
someone's
Yeah.
upset. It's just a little bit more aggressive.
Aggressive
She
driving. Yep.
whipped out of her apartment complex pretty quick, like she was on a mission. I There are a few comments online. I don't know how true any of this is, but that she was when she was leaving her apartment already upset over something. Her neighbors said that she had been yelling that day. So I do think that it was just like the straw that broke the camel's back, me honking at her. She was already
Yeah.
going through something, obviously. And that just kind of just pushed her over the edge, whether
Yeah,
it was mental illness or, substance abuse, who knows.
I, in giving her the benefit of the doubt, because we have all been in this situation
Hmm.
where we let ourselves get overly frustrated, impatient, or offended about something, and we get snippy or sarcastic, or we just end up doing something that potentially escalates the situation. And in this case, the neighbors are saying that she was already upset about something, and then you're right. I think it was just the straw that broke the camel's back. And you know what? Let's do this, damn it! And oh God,
Yes.
here we
I
go. Yeah,
think she
I
was
mean, it
looking
doesn't.
for something to take her stress out on. So unfortunately with my
You
car.
know, and it well, you know what? This may be a God thing in that fortunately it was with someone like you who let her burn off her energy. Everyone went home safe because if she had done that with someone else who could have acted more aggressively in
Hmm.
response, people could have got hurt.
Absolutely.
I mean, this could have been really, really bad.
Absolutely.
And so, like the looking at the silver lining in the cloud, maybe it was a good thing that she ran into you because you may have just saved her life and keep her from doing
Yeah.
something, that much worse. So you do
Yeah.
have
No, it is scary to think about how
this
differently it could
happened
have
in.
turned out.
Oh gosh, yeah. Did you lose any sleep in kind of like wargaming your head in worst case scenarios start going through your head like, oh my gosh, I could have got hurt, or did you go through anything like that?
I obviously, thought of how the situation could have ended differently, if it was somebody else, if she had broken that barrier of protection, or, if my son was with me. I haven't necessarily lost sleep over it, but I've definitely gone through every single possible, like, what if this would have happened, or what if this would have, gone differently, or it would have been somebody else who, did,
Right.
fling her off the car or get out of their car and, escalate from there.
Right.
There's just a million different things that could have happened. And so I do think it's a silver lining that it was, even though at the time I wasn't doing it for all the right reasons, it
Sure.
was
No.
someone who didn't react
Exactly.
in an aggressive way.
Well, no. I think if more people handled situations the way you did, we would have less road rages, less drama in fast food joints. Because a lot of these things involve someone who's frustrated about something. They don't know how to act properly. They act out, and it's because someone on the receiving end takes offense, get frustrated, they start running at the mouth, and then it just goes sideways from there. So if more people handled confrontational, stressful situations like this the way you did, I really
Yeah.
believe there'd be a dramatic decrease in road rage incidences and so on. Because you
Well,
can you
thank
can watch
you.
some of this. Oh, you're phenomenal. You can watch some of these things on YouTube, and there will
Mhm.
be a point when you're like, you could hit pause and go, this is the point. It starts to go off the rails because that
Yes.
person decided, and
Mhm. Absolutely.
all they had to do was just let it go. And
Yeah.
and I'm not saying it's easy, which is why your
No.
life experiences and my life experiences helped us to come up with a basic rule of thumb way to handle situations like this. If nothing else, being able to assess very quickly, okay, there's no point in saying anything because this person is just off their rocker.
Mhm.
Because
Yeah.
oftentimes, if you're not careful, you start talking to someone or trying to talk to them, they're sensing, because of their state of mind, they're sensing you're trying to be argumentative, and then it just potentially can spiral out of control. I you know
Absolutely.
I just remember this happened back in late February, so here we are almost a month
Yeah.
later, and she's still in jail.
Yes, and I
Oh, she's
actually got my car back today.
oh
Well, for the
wow,
time being, it has to go back eventually, but there's just apparently a lot of broken cars right now. So the car shops are a little
wow,
backed up
yeah,
apparently.
wow.
So we fixed for the time being what we could, windshield wipers, but I do still need to go back and get some of the dents taken care of in the hood and on the roof. But thankfully I do have it for right now.
Wow, yeah, yeah. Wow. Any as we wind down, any pointers, comments, or anyone just so they can handle it, if and when they encounter a situation like this,
Yeah.
words of
Absolutely. I
encouragement,
think
what?
everyone just needs to remember, we're all human. Everyone deserves a little compassion sometimes in situations like these. And
Yeah.
also, sometimes no reaction is the best reaction for situations like these and circumstances that call for it. Sometimes just not reacting and, like you've said multiple times, just letting it burn out is the best option in a lot of cases.
It really is. Thank you for saying that because that's exactly right. I mean, it can be very challenging because we all have that initial defensive
Hmm.
urge to do something, to say something, but oftentimes just sitting back and let the situation kind of work itself
Yeah.
out, especially when you already know you're safe behind a
Hmm.
barrier or something.
Yeah.
Now, Ashton, again, thank you so much for taking a few moments to chat with me and share your story. That I think you
Of
did a
course.
phenomenal job. You're probably interviewed out by now, right? Because I know you've been talking to a lot of people.
Interviewed out, not really, honestly. I've done,
Really?
I
Okay.
think, three, three now.
Is that right?
But
Okay.
it's funny going into work. I think I had someone come up to me the other day. I was like, wait, that was you? And I'm like, oh my gosh. Of all the things for people to recognize me around my small town, this is gonna be one of them for a very
That's
long
right.
time.
I'm gonna get an 8x10 of the lady on your hood, and then I want you to autograph it with a little arrow to the driver, like that's me.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, no, it's definitely been interesting. It's definitely been interesting.
Well, if that's the most exciting thing you have to deal with between now and whenever, that's a blessing.
Yeah.
Because yeah,
Yeah, I'm all tapped out on excitement for right now.
right. No, you done good, Ash, and I think that's phenomenal. And it just
Thank you.
highlights. No, you're welcome, and it highlights just how important life experiences is in being able to handle stresses in life like that. So, thank you again.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you as well
You
for helping me talk about this in a constructive way and not making it, just some huge news story that's not going to help anybody.
No, no, exactly right. And really my hope is really to because you hit on a couple things that I try to teach in my de-escalation classes and I always emphasize in my classes, you're not always going to get it right. But if
Hmm.
you always keep in mind again giving people the benefit of the doubt and just understanding we're all human and that person must be having a really bad day and don't take it personally. Obviously, this person, they're taking things personally. That doesn't mean you have to, and you don't have to let someone else's behavior and actions cause you to lose your self-discipline, your professionalism, and so on. Especially when you can assess the situation and determine there is no imminent danger of great bodily harm or death.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's very different. If she had started
Yeah.
busting out windows and reaching in, now
Hmm.
that changes the dynamics.
And it's
But
very hard just to sit
yeah.
back and kind of let it happen. But like I said, sometimes that is the best reaction. I don't
Yeah, yeah.
I'm glad I reacted that way, but I don't think it was because that was my thought process at the time. I reacted in not in fear, because like I said, I wasn't in fear for my life or anything, but just in shock, honestly, just kind of like taken back. I did the right things. It probably wasn't the right thought process at the time, but like I said, I am glad that we get to, look back at this and critique it and, take out the good, point out what could have been done differently, and like I said, talk about it in a constructive way that's going to help other people in situations like this.
Well, how you handle that is a great example of what happens when someone's conditioned to handle stress. You are so familiar from your past life experiences and jobs of handling people who are out of control that when it suddenly happened to you and this time it was kind of directed at you, your body already knew. You know what? Just sit back.
Yeah.
We already know. And even though in the moment you're not even consciously thinking of it. Your body was already conditioned to react and respond that way. And that's why good, dynamic, realistic training is so important, with life experiences, because it helps us react and respond without thinking to certain stresses and all that. And so, really, I think your life
Absolutely.
experiences definitely came through. All that crap you dealt with at bars and stuff like that came together and help you go home safe, right? Who would have
Yeah.
thunk we could say that?
Yes. I did not think all those years breaking up bar fights would eventually lead to this.
This one moment. Now you're an
Yeah.
internet star and all that.
Yep. I've been trained for this.
That's right. That's right. All right, Ashton. Thank you again. Thank you so much. Good luck. God bless.
Absolutely. Thank you.
We'll be in touch again, some way, somehow, again soon. I'm sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, Sean, for taking the time.
All
Have a good
right.
night.
Phenomenal job by Ashton, staying calm and not inadvertently saying or doing something in stress that could have inadvertently escalated the situation to the point of causing great injury to the lady who was on top of the hood of her car. Once again, we see how critical it is to stay calm in a stressful confrontational situation. Because once we have this knee jerk reaction, we automatically get defensive because of an adrenaline dump. You're more likely than not going to say or do something that could escalate the situation. Now, people under stress who suddenly find themselves in a stressful situation are going to react and respond in one of just a couple ways. Either A, they have a vapor lock and do nothing at all because they're just so stunned and shocked at what's happening, or they completely internalize and withdraw and collapse emotionally, mentally, spiritually, and just become a pool, a puddle of tears and water, right? You basically do nothing. The other possible reaction and response is to actually overreact and overrespond, trying to overcompensate for not knowing what to do. And so that's why it's critical that we talk about some of the lesson points right here and that you prepare yourself for the eventuality in this day and age is a possibility you may encounter a road rager. I was a driver's ed instructor for about a year and a half, a number of years ago. And one of the things we were teaching the teenagers is just to take a moment, take a breath, and just remember there's no law, rule, regulation, or policy that says you will, you shall, you must react and respond to some knucklehead out on the road. Expect to encounter dangerous, stupid drivers so that you're more emotionally and mentally prepared so that when you do see someone who's driving very carelessly, very recklessly, or honking the horn at you and flipping you off the bird, that once you encounter that you just let it go. Just let it go. It's only when you let yourself become offended, frustrated, impatient, that you increase the likelihood that you're going to say or do something that escalates the situation. And Ashton did a phenomenal job of not letting herself become offended that this lady is on the hood of her car, putting dents in it, smashing up her windshield, tearing off wiper blades. Don't risk life or limb over property. We have insurance for that. Take a deep breath, assess the situation. Is there imminent danger of great bodily harm or death to you or anyone else in the car? In this case, it could have been her child, but Ashton's child was not in the vehicle, and she took that into consideration in those split-second calculations. Assess the situation. Is there imminent danger of great bodily harm or death? How do I get out of this situation? A few months ago, as a matter of fact, on January 3rd, at the beginning of this year, I had a follower reach out to me with a road rage incident that happened here in West Michigan. And in the video, you can see him have a car pull in front of him and suddenly brake. And the driver, my follower, quickly put the car in reverse and started backing up, creating distance between him and this road rager. And it ended peacefully. Everyone went home safe. Nothing got broken. Ashton, because of where she was at the time of day, was not able to back up out of the way. So she was kind of stuck in a corner. But just because you're in a corner doesn't mean you have to come out swinging, right? You don't have to tap into your fear aggression. You can still assess the situation. And she recognized that she was safe behind her, inside her car. And she even mentions in our conversation that had that lady broken the window and started reaching in and all that, well, that changes the dynamics. But as this situation evolved and played out, she assessed the situation, recognized she was not in imminent danger of great bodily harm or death. There was no reason to try to force the woman off her vehicle, which could have resulted in great injury and her being sued for liability and all that. Great job of just taking a moment to stay calm, even have the presence of mind to shoot some video just to make sure that it was well documented in this situation. So another thing that we used to tell teenagers in driver's ed, if you have someone following you and all that, take a right turn at the next corner, pull into the next parking lot. Just basically start making right turns It only takes a minute out of your way to make a right turn and down a street, turn around and come back, just letting the other driver keep going. Obviously, if they keep following you, well, then that changes the dynamics of the situation. You can call 911 and say, hey, I'm going eastbound on 36th Avenue, and hopefully there's an officer up there because I'm driving a blue car and there's a truck behind me honking its horn and flashing his lights at me. So I mean, there's ways to handle that too. Anyway, great job, Ashton. Folks, stay calm, take a deep breath, assess the situation. Don't let yourself become so offended, frustrated, and impatient by what's going on that you inadvertently say or do something to escalate a situation. Don't risk life or limb over property. You have insurance over that, okay? Be safe. I'll catch you guys on the next video.